Yo family, real quick. I'm proud to announce the soft launch of Sincere Love to God's new book, From the Womb to Illmatic, a hip-hop-inspired blueprint for unlocking your child's inner genius. This ain't your average parenting book. This is for the culture. Inspired by Illmatic, built around his own son Seven's early development, and packed with real tools to help parents turn everyday moments into genius-level learning. If you've ever wanted to give your child a head start without losing your roots, this book is for you. Available now on Amazon. Order now and leave a 5-star review. You already know, we raising brilliance around here.
Hi, I'm Seven, and I'm the Super Harry. That means I ask big questions, I make big moves, and I come from something powerful. In this series, I broke through change, embraced my culture, and unlocked the gifts that my ancestors gave me. These books are for kids like me, kids with heart, with pride, and with big dreams. Come join the journey. Collect all 4 Seven the Super Hero books and unlock your power. Available on Amazon and Kindle now. Order your copy today.
Here's the way it is. You live in direct relation to the poets, the heroes, and the sheroes you have. Always honor the elders. Then you honor yourself. Honor women. You honor yourself. Honor men. You honor yourselves.
All right, peace and black love, family. What's good? Welcome to another episode of Sincere Love the Godcast. I am the God Sincere Love, and I am back in the house once again, as promised, with a follow-up broadcast. This is part 2 to me and a couple of good foundational black Americans that will be joining me tonight, breaking down the bad faith talking points from Dr. Umar Johnson when he was on the It's Up There podcast, and he announced his launch of the Dafa movement. Many of y'all already know what that's about. If you didn't get a chance to check out part 1, make sure you check out part 1. That was great. We did that on Saturday with my sister Brooke and my sister Kay Fighter. Great broadcast. We did a very thorough job of going through those talking points and breaking down the first half of the video. And so tonight, we are here to go through the second part of the video. And I got another couple of guests that's going to be joining me tonight to help me do so. But before we do that, I need y'all to hit that like button as y'all coming up in here. Hit that like button, share this out on your social media platforms. Let everybody know that we are live right now with another episode of Sincere Love the Godcast. Really need y'all to share the link tonight, man, because we was running a little bit behind. I had some things going on, so I didn't get a chance to really get everything set up and get the link shared out, and to give everybody enough time to know exactly when we were going live and all of that. So those of you that are here with me now, I appreciate y'all. Again, like, share, subscribe. Let's get this thing going, man. It's going to be another hot one tonight, man. Important FBA business to handle. Very important FBA business to handle. And so I'm not, since we are running behind, I'm definitely not going to waste too much of y'all time. I'm going to go ahead and bring on our guests for tonight, and I'm going to give them the opportunity to introduce themselves for those of y'all that may not be familiar with the brothers that I got coming on tonight. And so first we're going to start with the brother Tad from Brooklyn. Brother Tad, welcome to the Godcast, King.
Peace. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
No doubt. I appreciate you, bro, for having me on. Yeah, for those who don't know, I'm Brother Tad of the OG Wisdom Podcast. Me and my co-host C Gutter come on every Sunday, the real C Gutter at that. We come on every Sunday at 2 p.m. on YouTube, and I'd be remiss if I don't shout out my sister Kay Fighter, where we rock out every Thursday at 8 p.m. on Thorough Black Talk Worldview. And I'm about to launch a new venture and endeavor called Tad Talks, Real Talk for Real Growth. So be on the lookout for that. Launching in a couple of weeks.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I meant to ask you that because I know you mentioned that when we was on Do the Knowledge Radio with my brother Knowledge Born, peace of the God Knowledge Born. Appreciate you for hooking me up with these brothers and the sisters that I had on the other day as well, man. Good looking out on that alley-oop to you. But I meant to ask you, you said the real C Gutter. You talking about Junior Mafia C Gutter, the brother that was the bodyguard and all that?
Yeah. That's my
Okay.
co-host. I'm so what Tad Talks is about my reformation from a life that I used to live. So I won't say I'm gang affiliated, but I'm definitely G affiliated. You know, I know a lot of people that come from the lower rungs of Black society, and I've been fortunate enough to be one of the people that pull myself out of those conditions and mindset. And that's pretty much what I stand on. The mindset, the paradigm shift, even standing today in this FBA movement, that was my paradigm shift from the Pan-African movement, which I was a student and sat at many of the master teachers' feet. I actually came into the movement in 1997 with Dr. Khalid Muhammad. I met him in the corner store in Brooklyn. We exchanged numbers. He called the crib. We linked up. That was it. From him, I met Geronimo Pratt and just went on to just sitting at the feet of so many dope master teachers, you know,
Incredible.
that to be FBA, like it's a no-brainer because that is who I am. I was born and raised in Brooklyn. My parents was the first generation New Yorkers. All four of my grandparents are from the South. Great grandparents always identified as indigenous folks who had darker husbands, you know. But my grandmothers and great grandmothers always identified with the indigenous lineage bloodline mixed with, you know, with the kidnapped and slave Africans.
Indeed. That's the amalgamation right there. You know what I
Right.
mean?
But I
That's
have
what it
documents.
is.
A lot of people like to say pretendians and things like that, but
Yeah, we're gonna definitely get into that. So we're gonna definitely get into that. But yeah, man, I had actually crossed paths with the brother C Gutter when I was up top in Washington Correctional Facility.
okay.
Um, when he came through there, I was on my way out. I think I had probably 2 weeks left to go when he came through there. But he was on the same dorm where I was at and all of that too. So we crossed paths real quick as well.
Yeah, I definitely again, you can refresh his memory. Y'all could probably talk about some things because you know, a lot of people don't know. See, people think C Gutter is just this gangster dude, you know, known for clapping up things and you know,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
he's a very intelligent brother and historically astute. He has a lot of knowledge about Black and African history. So he's
That's
definitely
what's up.
sharp, you know.
That's what's up. We might have to get both of y'all on one day and chop it up on some other topics.
Yeah.
All right. So as we keep it moving, let me get our next guest on for y'all tonight. We got the good brother President Divine joining the Godcast. Welcome to the Godcast, King.
Man, thank you for having us, man. Thank you for having me. What's going on, brother
Absolutely.
Tad? Brother
Peace,
Sincere,
brother.
I know he's doing the introductions, but I just want to make sure that I don't lose sight of what I want to say because I think this is just an amazing piece of foundational Black American history and how it's supposed to work, in my opinion. And so, you know, brother Tad just talked about how he got brought into the game and just the grace that he sat at the feet at. And because of, you know, just doing this work and just being affiliated with people like Sister Brooke and her affiliation with Dr. Randy Short, that's how I got a chance to be connected with Sister Keisha and Brother Tad. And so now that cycle continues where they sat at the foot of the greats of their day and we're sitting at their feet learning from the greats of our day. And we're all like pushing this movement forward, pushing this knowledge forward and in the process of becoming, you know, living foundation Black American legends of ourselves where others, you know, not to have a big ego, but soon there will be people that will sit at our feet. And I think that's the importance of how this thing goes from generation to generation, at least how it's supposed to go. Because before this foundation Black American movement, what we found was there was a set of individuals, usually propped up by left-wing white supremacy, that took the knowledge and sat at the gate, gatekeeping the knowledge and not allowed it to be passed down so that the movement can continue to grow organically. They were trying to control its growth and control its direction to weaponize it. And kind of we just busted that up with this current delineation movement. So I just wanted to make sure I gave honors to this brother and to you as well for having us on. And on that note, real short intro. My name is Divine Prince. I'm just your everyday foundational Black American. I used to think that the way to our growth and progress was through Black capitalism. And I always say this, the biggest takeaway for me through that era in my life was my mentor when he told me at that time that if you see that something needs to get done and nobody else is doing it, that means it's supposed to be you. And I brought that into this space because at the time when I was advocating for us as a people, I was deferring to the legacy organizations until I found out that none of the legacy organizations were fighting exclusively and solely for our people group, our ethnic group, our lineage. And so because no one else was doing it, that's how the U.S. Freedmen Project was born.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And yeah, man, I appreciate y'all brothers coming on as well. I'm very humbled to have y'all on. And yeah, I actually, that's exactly how I felt when I met y'all on the last platform. Like I was there sitting at the feet of y'all brothers. You know what I'm saying? Like when I spoke the knowledge, I was like, yo, I can't believe you invited me to that panel. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like y'all was dropping some heavy shit right there. I was like, yo, I'm just me. I do what I do. You know what I mean? But y'all came with some real scholarship. Both of y'all very, very well spoken and got a real good grip on the information and all of that. And so just to even be on the panel with y'all, it was definitely an honor for me as well. So I definitely appreciate y'all coming through and doing this with me tonight.
Most definitely.
I appreciate it. I'm going to just say this, a little disclaimer. Sister Brooke and K Fight are going to be a tough act to follow, man. So
Word.
Hey.
Tough act to follow. Shout out to our sisters. I'm going to say something real quick, right, Brother Sincere? Yeah. One thing about me and my sister K Fight, I always say that's my sister from another mister. In this movement, I always say I'm not going to be a part of no organization where sisters are not in leadership. You know, as a brother, I don't have that type of ego. And with my sister K Fight, I learned so much from her. Because as you can see, she is sharp as a Wu-Tang sword. You know, she spitting darts. And what's so dope is both of us being from Brooklyn, when we first connected and started doing this work, I knew a lot of her people from the hood on both sides of her family. They was like, what you doing with Tad? It's like, do you know who Tad is? Like, like I said, I used to be outside, but it comes to a point where we have to grow. And I'm glad to be taking this sojourn with my sister K Fighter, and then meeting Brother Divine and Sister Brooke, and now you yourself. And shout out to everybody who rock with us and support us from day one, because we've been doing, me and Sister K Fighter have been working together at least 10 years. Don't seem like it, but it's been at least a decade that we've been doing this work together. And individually, it's been longer than that. Like I said, I came into the movement in 97 with Dr. Khalid and been going ever since,
Yes, indeed.
I'm definitely of my sisters.
Yes, indeed. And speaking of our sisters, before we get started, I definitely got to shout out my lovely co-host, Nicey Girl. I don't know if you're here in the chat with us tonight, but either way, I know that you're always here in spirit. So shout out to Nicey Girl in the building, man. That's the other half of Sincere Love the Godcast for those of y'all that don't know. And so we're going to go ahead and get started with this video. And as we doing that, family, we got over 100 people in the chat already. Make sure that y'all hit that like button. Hit that like button, family. Share this out on your social media platforms. Let the family know that we live right now. And so hopefully no ad don't play as we start getting into this video. But let's see. Let me enlarge this real quick. And actually, you know what? I'm gonna speed it up because I ain't even think to do that last time until damn near the end of it. But let me speed the video up so we can try to get through as much as possible. 1.5 should be good. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. We're almost at the halfway point in the video. It's like 8 minutes into the video. It was a 20-minute video. And this is just the section where he was talking about that foundational Black Americans and him introducing the Dafa situation. So let's go ahead.
And let me also say this, Loon. Let us be honest. What do we know about the psychology of oppression? The victim often imitates the victimizer. The oppressed often imitates the oppressor. What do I mean by that, Loon? I don't want to be the most oppressed person. I got to find somebody and put them beneath me.
And so real quick, let me just ask y'all, is that speed good enough can it be understood, or is it too fast?
I got it.
It's good money? All right, cool.
We New Yorkers, we used to fast talkers.
Yeah. Cause he talked fast already, so I just had to make sure.
Can look down on them and mistreat them. And it's back and forth between Black Africa, and a lot of this is victim consciousness. I don't want to be the lowest, so I'm going to victimize and step on the American African. I want to be the lowest, so I want to victimize and step on the African immigrant, because in America, we're the lowest. We are the lowest in the social order. I'm not saying we internalize that. Right. I'm saying that's the white agenda. Yes. We don't want to be the lowest. So rather than build myself up, my hospitals, my schools, my banks, my trains, my import, export, you see that? My industry, my own trade market, stock market, rather than compete with everybody else, I'm just going to demonize. But what?
Yeah, we're going to have to deal with that for the night. And so while I'm skipping past the ads, if any of y'all want to hop in with what he said already, y'all can go right ahead.
Brother Divine, you want to touch that?
I wanted to let him land his plane, but we passed this ad.
I was muted, so yeah, I wanted to look something up because I know there's an actual definition. I like to bring that level of scholarship, so I was looking it up. So I do have it now. So yeah, I would touch that. So what I wanted to read was an unconscious defense mechanism where an individual disowns their own unacceptable thoughts, emotions, or traits and attributes them to another person. That is the clinical definition of projection. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to make sure I put that out there, being that he's a school psychologist. I thought we should get some technical terms on the table, because what he described from a clinical projection standpoint is exactly what happens with the Pan-Africans. And so he talked about they have a need to identify with the oppressor. Who are the original oppressors when we're talking about foundational Black Americans? See, we all know the white supremacists that went over to Africa, bought and sold us. But what Pan-Africanism has done a good job at is convince us and conceal the fact that there were certain, not all of them, but certain tribes on the continent of Africa that partnered with the white supremacists willingly, not at the threat of violence, willingly. So the original oppressors are the white supremacists that went there and bought us and bought our ancestors that have ancestral links to the continent of Africa, but also those certain tribes that sold them. And so when you have a Pan-African that comes out and says, hey, yeah, you're not American, even though we've been multi-generational Americans since 1850, for multi-generational foundational Black Americans at that, you have them coming out and saying, no, you're just Africans in America. That's an identity crisis. Mm-hmm. Especially when you factor in the reality where they don't call them, you're just Africans in Jamaica. Or you're just Africans in Haiti. Or you know what, those even though most of them went to Brazil during the trade, those are just Africans in Brazil. No, those are Afro-Brazilians. Those are just Jamaicans. Those are just Haitians. And so it is the foundation of Pan-Africanism, in my opinion, is the denigration and the need to convince foundational Black Americans that we don't have our own autonomy due to our ethnogenesis. We're just a lost tribe that just so happened to build the greatest superpower the world has ever known, if not one of them.
Right.
And in their estimation, especially when you talk to them, they'll let you know right off the bat, oh no, y'all really didn't build it. Mm-hmm. When you talk to a Pan-African. So that's just a lot of projection when he's talking about who needs to identify with the oppressor, especially when you take our documented history of giving hell to the oppressor here in the country we built.
And then Africanize it. I should have went before you, Divine, because you went all deep on me, man. I was gonna keep it light and simple. Say, homie got that victim consciousness, that victim mentality, which many of us lost a long time ago. Because when we know our story, we have nothing to be ashamed of. And that's one of the things I've realized when I was in the Pan-African movement, that everything was victimized. Oh, look what they doing to us. Look at they doing this, they doing that, they doing it. But then when you really know our story, look at all the phenomenal dopeness that we have done, from creating real institutions. Shout out to the FDMG Academy. But Booker T. Washington, he really did build the school, taught the children how to build their own bricks. You know, how we practice independence. We got to talk about Harriet Tubman, Nat Turner, Gabriel Prosser, Denmark Vesey, those who resisted. Let's not forget our scientists like Lewis Latimer and George Washington Carver. Like, we've done so much dopeness around the planet, Gary Morgan. And these are just the ones that the children should know. I'm quite sure when we go deeper, we'll find more people. Like, even looking at the science and cells of a Henrietta Lacks or Albert Perry, on how just our genetic makeup is dope, damn near the God particle in itself. You know what I mean? So with the Pan-African movement, it's always we're victimized, we're oppressed. Nah, ain't nobody ever. All my 50 plus years on this planet, nobody has ever been allowed to handle me any kind of way. I don't care who it is. Police, judge, school teachers. So I don't give my mentality or my identity to somebody keeping me down. It's the choices I've made in my life that has jammed me up. Whenever I got my head bust or got locked up, it's because something I decided to do. Now, I understand there's a particular environment that we live in, but every Black person ain't a victim to the community. Every Black person ain't a victim to what goes on around them. It's all about us lifting ourselves up. And I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna pass the mic back. One of the things I loved, not loved. One of the things I love about our freedom fighters, let's just say Dr. King and Malcolm X and the likes, they always talk about self-improvement, not subscribing to the identity that white folks have put on us, but by tapping into our own greatness and standing on that. That's what makes us dope. But when we start subscribing to this victimhood mentality, we operate in the mindset of a victim. And I've never been the victim. I've always been the victor. And with that, I pass the mic.
Yes, indeed. And so to piggyback off of what both of y'all was saying, Brother Divine, you mentioned how everybody else's ethnogenesis is respected, but when it comes to ours, there's always, it's some type of erasure, you know what I'm saying, at play. And not only in the Caribbean and those South American countries that you mentioned, but even on the continent, a lot of people there are they don't just identify themselves as generic Africans. They delineate based on their nation. They delineate based on their religion. They delineate based on their tribe. You know what I'm saying? So I've seen many a times where African people on the continent are saying, "Well, I'm not an African. I'm this, I'm that," and they start naming their tribes and their language and all of these other things that they identify on in order to delineate and distinguish themselves from other people on the continent and even within the nation. You know what I'm saying? So everyone else's unique identity is respected, but when it comes to us, we're supposed to be invisible. And then he goes on to talk about how you know everybody is always just looking for another group to be lower on the totem pole than they are. We just don't want to be on the bottom. And instead of fighting against white supremacy, or instead of us building our own institutions and so on and so forth, we just want to look for another group that looks like us to fight with and put them lower on the totem pole than us. But like you mentioned, Brother Divine, Brother Tad, I think it was Brother Tad, talked about all of the different achievements that we have under our belt in spite of our condition. No group is more successful than us. When it comes to building institutions, when it comes to, there's no Black Wall Streets in the Caribbean. You know what I'm saying? They don't have no history of doing that on the continent, unless you want to go all the way back to Timbuktu. You know what I'm saying? But we're talking about in modern times, you know what I'm saying? Post colonization and the slavery era and all of that. We're the only ones that have managed to do that in spite of everything that was stacked up against us with no help from nobody.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I want to say this real quick too, to your point about people not letting us identify ourselves, because this is the problem I have with the Pan-African movement. That victimhood mentality is as if we don't have our own identity. So they're of the rhetoric that we've been stripped of all that we are, regardless to all the flyness that we've done, regardless to people coming over here cosplaying us, trying to attach their wagon to our horses so they can move in our direction. whenever it's something dope done, they want to say, yeah, it's African, it's African, it's African. You know what I'm saying? And I said, we got to dismiss that and divorce that, because my grandmother used to tell me that as a child. Real quick, I knew both of my grandmother's mothers. You know, one name was Helen Hooker, and the other one, my father's grandmother name was Helen Hooker. My mother's grandmother name was Anna Lewis. Both of them identified as Cherokee Indians. But one thing about Anna Lewis, she was born in 1910 in Halifax County, Virginia, right? Always knew who she was. As kids, we used to say Mars an Indian, Mars an Indian, but we was born in the 70s, right on the heels of the civil rights movement and the Black Power movement. So everything was so African-centered. We divorced the indigenous part of the family and we accepted the African identity, because even as a kid in daycare, they had us doing dashiki, celebrating Kwanzaa. You know, so we was raised in this. You know what I mean? The political landscape was you're African, you're African. We were stolen from African. All Black people were stolen from Africa. Not realizing that they use colored and Black interchangeable, because not all colored people identified as Black people or meant African people per se. But what I was saying about my great grandmother, make this point quick as possible. She was born in 1910 in Halifax County, Virginia, but nobody talks about Dr. Walter Plecker, who created paper genocide, who took indigenous people and mulattoes and changed them to colored, which became synonymous with Negro and then Black and then African American, which was the first successful attempt at our erasure, because we didn't know our history. And a lot of people that are outside of FBA could hardly go back 2-3 generations of their family. And I'm talking about, I've spoken to a lot of continental and Caribbean people. They may know the village history, but they don't know their direct family lineage, as to where, you know, I can tell you who my great grandmother's grandmother is or
by
was.
Name.
Yeah, by name.
White people can't even do that.
Right. So that's one of the things that makes us dope, because we're the ones who created family reunions.
Right.
It didn't exist prior to us doing that. We're the only ones who really are big on extended family. 3rd, 4th, 5th cousins are still cousins.
Right.
You know, you look at other groups, a cousin ain't nothing but my mother's sister's children. Like, they don't have that connection. We're a community people, and we thrive on that. We're the ones who created Memorial Day. I always tell people, even during Juneteenth, you know, my Pan-African brothers and sisters was like, white people gave us that holiday. I said, I disagree, bro, because I've been celebrating Juneteenth for at least 20 years. You know, I'm an old head now. You see the grays, right? I remember when Dr. King's birthday wasn't a holiday, and we still took off that day. And I keep telling people, what we have is not it's not at the beneficence of white folks saying, here, y'all can have it. No, we resisted everything, and we took everything we got. We leave it up to them. We still be on plantations. Still, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I dismiss all that these fools be talking about.
We forced the issue, just like we forcing the issue now with this delineation movement, and they're gonna have to get down or lay down. That's just how it always go. And shout out to Mama Love. I want to give a shout out to Mama Love with the $20 super chat. I appreciate you, Mom. You want to say anything before we continue with the video, Devon?
Yeah, I did. I just want to say, in addition to that, because we talked about, you know, they talk about the identifying with the oppressor, and just like I said, it's just a constant assault on our ethnic group specifically. Because, like you said, when you were talking about your experience with the word African, and I talk about this often as well, how much of a misnomer the idea or the religion, as I call it, of pan-Africanism really is. Because in the history of the world, there has never been a universal African identity.
Never.
That anybody or everybody on the continent ascribes to and uses it as a point of unity against other enemies or other threats, both foreign and domestic. That's never existed. And if we're going to go that far and we're going to get that granular, then are we going to say that all Nigerians are identifying with the oppressed, since we know a white woman named Nigeria?
Right.
Are we going to do that for the term African itself, because that wasn't the term they gave themselves? And so this is the games and the doubles talk that they engage in to try to chastise and shame us, like Brother Tao was just saying, I don't know why I caught a brain fart there, but just in an attempt to Africanize us and ethnocide us, you know, by all the tools that they have at their disposal. Like, that's part of the reason why they pushed this lie on us specifically. Because the minute we give up our rights on this land and give up our identity to the land and turn on our ancestry here in this country, then it opens up the gateway for all other Afro immigrants to come in, co-opt our story, and be included. I'll never forget this, and I'll take a breath here so we can get moving. It was a space on Twitter a couple of years ago, and the space was about, does immigration hurt or help foundational Black Americans? And it just so happened that at the time that space was taking place overnight, Nigerians, Nigerians were being gifted back the internet and the ability to get back on social media that same night. And so the space ballooned. It was one of the first spaces in the movement that hit, like, it was like 20,000, 30,000 people in the space live.
Yep.
And afterwards, you know, and of course, like they do now, they were calling up, coming on the space and centering themselves, their specific subset of immigration, instead of talking to the conversation of, does immigration help foundational Black Americans? Because everybody knows that answer is no. And so they centered their individual ethnic groups. And I'll never forget the morning space when I was on my way to work, there was a Nigerian space. And this Nigerian doctor, PhD, a professor in Nigeria, said, we have to be very careful with the way in which foundational Black Americans are talking about delineating and becoming their own ethnic group, because there's a caste system in America with them on the bottom. And if we're not careful, they will remove themselves from the bottom, and we might be the group that goes to the bottom next. And so everybody understands, and this is a learned man, right? Someone that teaches in their institutions of higher learning over there on the continent. And they all understand this concept, where they know that in a capitalism system specifically, and a racial caste system definitely, there has to be a bottom caste. And they are 100% okay and encourage it to be us so that it's not them. And so this idea of full unity that's pushed on us always and all the time, it's a con game. And that's one of the biggest cons that the pan-Africanist movement, the pan-Africanists and their movement has ushered into our community. And this delineation movement kind of just kicks over that apple cart of all the bullshit that they've been trying to push on us for all these years.
That's heavy.
And I want to add on to that, and I'm glad you said, and I'm glad you recognize it for the con game that it is, because again, that identity that we're on the bottom of the totem pole, I rebuke that, I reject that, I will not own it, I will not accept it, because tell me what group of Black folks is doing better than foundational Black Americans here, and I'll wait. Haitians aren't outperforming us, Jamaicans aren't outperforming us, Nigerians aren't outperforming us. We know this to be a fact. None of them are doing better than us. So I don't know why people keep just telling us we at the bottom of the totem pole, because that's the rhetoric they like to project on us. Your word, right? The projection. They like to project that we're less than, and anybody coming here is better than us. And them folks believe that, you know. So again, these are identities that I'm rebuking and I'm rejecting, because I don't see myself as the bottom of the totem pole. I got my passport, my driver's license intact. I can book a flight right now. I am not jammed up, and I'm sure enough ain't running from nobody. You know, and it ain't 10 of us in the bedroom right now. So I don't know why they think they're doing better than us and we're at the bottom of the totem pole. But I digress.
Man, y'all wasn't ready. Y'all wasn't ready for this broadcast tonight. Almost 400 of y'all in the chat. Make sure y'all hit that like button as we proceed to give you what you need with this here video. I think he's still on the same topic, so we might be able to fast forward a little bit because we done beat that shit to death. But hold on, let me see where he at.
Do to somebody else what the white man been doing to me. And we all have that disease. I'm speaking universally. Every African group in the world. Because remember now, I've met them all. They always looking for somebody to put under their foot. If I can't beat the white man, let them join them by having somebody under me too.
So, but if it's about resources and reparations. So if it's about reparations, right, for Americans, descendants of slaves. Because I agree with you. I think it shrinks the coalition when we have like, ADOS and FBA and Pan-Africanism and regular just black people who ain't doing none of that.
Pan-Africanism, our focus is the whole. We're the only philosophy in inclusive the world that is inclusive of everybody. Nobody else has that. They want to make you a Hebrew.
What strength is that?
They want to make you a Christian. They want to make you a Muslim. We don't have that. We believe in freedom of religion. We are about unity of the race. We see the African race as a family that we want to be cohesive. We play in the long game. And we are the only philosophy that has ever been pointed out by the white man as being a threat to his system. You ain't gonna see no FBA on no documents. You ain't gonna see no ADOS on no documents. You ain't gonna see no Hebrew, no Morton, no Wapi, none of that. And I love them all. But what the white man said in his security memorandum was what? We cannot allow the black African and the black American to unite at all, culturally, economically, or politically. If they do, that would significantly undermine our globalization.
Yeah, so you looking at it from.
So the man asked him about reparations, and he started going on about all of this Afro unity that Pan-Africanism is supposed to represent, and we all need to get together. So I guess what I'm gathering from that is what he's trying to say is, and he does say it at another point in the video, but I guess that's where he was going at that section right there of saying there should be one fight when it comes to reparations. It should be the entire planet of black people fighting to get reparations as one movement together. And so y'all can respond to that right there. What do y'all say about that?
Well, I know Brother Divine gonna get real deep, and I'm gonna keep this brief. Of course, he didn't answer the question, and we all know, us FBA, we know that they should go get their reparations from the people who colonized them, because the one thing people keep forgetting, Europe wasn't unified in terms of colonizing the continent and stealing the land and the people over here in the Western Hemisphere as well. In fact, I've been to Africa 4 times. When you go to those quote unquote dungeons, because I do not call them castles. Again, it's all about perspective. It was castles for Europeans, dungeons for darker skinned people. But when you get there, the cannons are pointing outward, not inward. Why is it pointing out to sea? To fight any other European nation that was coming there trying to steal the folks and the resources. Europeans were already at war. He got to stop acting like Europeans were unified, just like he got to stop acting like the Africans was unified. Again, that's a whole bunch of rhetoric. That's part one. Part two, we were emancipated longer than African nations got their independence. I even seen in the comments, somebody said something about them folks having their own countries. That is not their country. These people are colonized people. In fact, during the transatlantic slave trade, which my elder Baba Baruti calls the Mayafa, the great suffering, that's a Swahili word, said because a trade would indicate equal exchange. There's no equal exchange for bare buttons and people. That's not a fair exchange, right? But for our great suffering, the majority of the people were taken to Brazil and the Caribbeans. The black folks here it was about 4% of kidnapped Africans brought here. And then as a former Pan-African, because as he said, it's a philosophy, FBA is a lineage. So you can't change your lineage. You can always change your philosophy, but you can't change your lineage. Right. So that's already a moot point he made, right? But now check the fly part. Excuse me, because I'm trying not to get too ahead of myself, because there's so much I want to say about this dude. But I'm gonna save it for more of his rhetoric, right? Black people here in America, right, have been here prior to Europeans coming. Now, this is by Lerone Benet. This is by Dr. John Henry Clark with Christopher Columbus and the African Holocaust. This is by Dr. David Imhotep in his book, The First Americans Were Africans. This is by Dr. Ivan Van Sertima, and They Came Before Columbus. That's only 4 books I cited, and I'm quite sure there's plenty more talking about black folks. Because we got to remember, this is not even our original language. So when we talk black, we make black synonymous with African, and it's a whole hodgepodge of ideas and thoughts that get people confused. But in this day and time, when we could talk to people across the globe in real time, we got to understand that these are words that's made up to keep the people confused. We know Europeans are the authors of confusion.
Absolutely.
So here it is. We keep talking about black, and we know black is a racial construct, and we know that white people was created after the Bacon Rebellion and all of this stuff. Like, you know what I'm saying? We know that the races were reinforced after the Bacon Rebellion, because we're familiar with Karl Linnaeus and Johann Friedrich Blumenbach and their classification of the races in the early 1500s. But when we talk about race and racism, we got to put it in this proper context, because we're playing another group's game. The one way you win a game is by not playing at all. If you don't play 3-card money, you can't lose your money. You put your money on that table, your money is gone. And that's the same thing with our mind. When we subscribe to these people's language and their thoughts and ideas and behaviors, we've already lost, because it's not our game, and the game wasn't designed for us to win. So when you hear Pan-Africans talk this talk, all they doing is operating in the modality of what the Europeans have subscribed for them, and they don't practice independent thinking. Many of them don't. The modern dudes. I wasn't around in the earlier days. You know what I mean? And I'm saying all that to say that FBA is the way. And anybody who's in disagreement with it, it shows how far behind you are, because we are a quarter of a century into the new millennium. You are talking about the 1700s, my dude. You talking about centuries ago, and still operating in that paradigm. Again, I rebuke that and I reject that. Brother Devon?
Man. Hey, FBA Convo, I modded you up, brother.
Oh, and one thing else I wanted to add. I'm glad you ain't saying nothing. They keep citing that goddamn memorandum that has been proven to be a fake. I wish they would stop regurgitating things that are not true. I've seen Dr. Umar say it. I've seen Professor Smalls say it, and shout out to Professor Smalls. You know,
is that the Zbigniew Brzezinski?
Yeah, they was talking about Zbigniew Brzezinski. But then when you look at it, they didn't even format, like whoever did that back in the 70s, it was part of a slander campaign to Jimmy Carter. They didn't even spell Zbigniew Brzezinski name right. They didn't format it officially how a government document should be formatted. There was another one that was talking about Central America. But again, this is the thing with Pan-Africans. They like to convolute things. I've read Harriet Tubman's Moses of Our People, right? Out of all the literature I ever read, I've never seen one legitimate quote where Harriet Tubman said, I freed thousands of slaves and would have freed thousands more if they only knew they were slaves. Never seen that. Only hear people say that. But where's the primary sources? People just regurgitate things, and that's what I'm saying. When you ask critical questions, people don't have answers. It's just this feel-good rhetoric that they have, and I'm off my soapbox.
Oof. Brother Devon.
I'm glad you went there, because that was gonna be the first thing that I said. Because that's that harkens us back to we went over to the Caribbean corner in Utica when they had that talk they was trying to have about foundational Black Americans, about us without us. And they started off that talk of quote unquote unity. Remember, it was supposed to be a unity talk. Remember that? That was the tagline of the talk. It was supposed to be about unity, but it was going to be a foundational Black American bashing session without foundational Black American voices until we showed up and what they say, we crashed the party. And they started off with that fake ass memo that is documented as being undocumented. And they use that. And again, Brother Tad says something that's so key. This idea that you consistently have to go to the past to promote what you're trying to bring into the future. When the Pan-Africans quote how many of our icons were quote unquote Pan-Africans back in the day, that's like the Republicans saying we are the party of Lincoln. If you got to take your raggedy ass all the way back to the penny, that means you ain't built nothing of worth in the whole 100 years your ideology been around. And
hold that thought real quick. Hold that thought real quick. I just want to say to the mods in the chat, brother FBA Convo, you ain't got to block nobody unless they saying something that's going to get the video flagged. You know what I'm saying? If they being disagreeable, whatever, that's fine. You can let them rock. But if they saying words that, you know, they trying to get the video banned or whatever the case may be, then you get them up out of here. But go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate that tidbit. Yeah, like we bring them on, bring them out. right? In most cases, they scared to debate us. Like we're trying to have those conversations in good faith, but they don't want to have them because they understand that when they have to stand on their ones and their twos, with their ones and their twos to solidify the religion that they've been following this entire time, it starts to fall apart. See, they say hope floats, right? But we talking about scholarship over here. When Brother Tad talks about that quote that's attributed to Harriet Tubman, don't that sound like the black church to you? Where there's all these different sayings that the pastor said, but that ain't in the good book. And people just been repeating over and over and over again because they heard it over and over and over again. That's what pan-Africanism is. That's why I call it the religion of pan-Africanism. There's a whole bunch of tropes, misnomers, and flat out lies that they've been repeating over and over and over again, so that you make it to that you think it's a fact if you don't do the work. And so what he's talking about, this, we already established that the universal quote unquote African identity has never existed. So pan-Africanism on its face, if we're talking about actual definitions of such, is a theory and not a fact. Because the continent has never been united behind being an African entity. So that's just a theory that it would be nice if it happened. But this idea that there needs to be only one fight, never in the history of the world has there been just one fight for a group of people from different ethnic groups. Because if you look at the quote-unquote system of white supremacy, yeah, they kind of get on code when it comes to pushing that racial hierarchy based on whiteness. But is the white community in some sort of kumbaya that I've missed over the duration of my entire life?
Never, ever.
Never, ever. You got white supremacists on the left and white supremacists on the right in this country today unaliving each other based on ideology. They both white. They killing each other over colors, the red party and the blue party. So let's cut the shit. Like, let's stop these myths that have been propagated to pathologize our people only. In fact, there are multiple pushes for reparations right now within the diaspora that do not include foundational Black Americans. So where's the one fight? Why didn't he bring that up in his talk with this gentleman right here? Why he didn't bring up CARICOM that only fights for the Caribbean and foundational Black Americans are not included? When we went to Binghamton, me and my sister Brooke, we went up there and there was a sister from the Harriet Tubman Foundation that's a whole Afro-Jamaican. And when she came over to, well, let me not say us because it wasn't to me. When she came over to Sister Brooke to cop the plea, after Sister Brooke called her out to her face, live and direct, she came over and let us know that she's fighting for reparations in Jamaica for Jamaicans specifically. She didn't say we're included. Now, she invited us to come over there and help them fight because she knows that we the fighters. But she didn't say, hey, you know what? I'm going to help us fight so I can come over here and help you fight for yours. She got up there and tried to dictate what ours should look like, using the word ours, knowing you a whole Afro-Jamaican.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I was just looking up a story. Shout out to my brother Marcel from South Carolina. I heard him mention this one time, and it's kind of how we just bounce ideas back and forth and sit at each other's feet. I remember him saying it, and I just looked it up to make sure I said the right thing because I don't want to push no misinformation on anybody's platform. But in Namibia, made a deal with the German government, the government of Germany, and they provided a reparations package. I'm not sure if it includes direct cash payments, but the bottom line, what I'm trying to explain is that they got with the Namibian government and provided this reparations package to a specific tribe in Namibia.
Right.
It didn't go to all Namibians, a specific tribe, because that tribe is the one that went through the specific harm that they was petitioning about. Where were the Pan-Africans talking about how divisive it is for this particular tribe in Namibia to get reparations, but not everybody who had been colonized in Namibia as a whole or mistreated as a whole in Namibia? Nowhere to be found. Again, this con game where they police foundational Black Americans is really at the heart of all the pushback we get because we saying no more. Like, that's it. It's done.
Let me throw something in there with that as well. And I'm not going to get deep into it now, but I want y'all to look up the United States African Development Foundation, the USADF, United States African Development Foundation. This is a government entity that has been in existence here in America since 1980 that allocates funds specifically and exclusively to African-owned businesses. And I'm talking about hundreds of millions of dollars annually of our taxpayer dollars that are specifically for African companies. And I'm not going to get deep into it now, but I want y'all to look that up because I'm going to do a video about it soon. All right. Let's try to get through some more of this video real quick. All right. All right. Here we go.
Global perspective. Not this upright. You don't care about none of that stuff. That's just smoke and mirrors.
You're looking at it from a global perspective. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
We the only thing he worried about.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So
we had a feeling that was going to happen. It's all good though. It's all good. Let me get past this. Get past this ad real quick. In the meantime, family, y'all make sure y'all hit that like button. And yeah, mods, I see disagreeables in the chat. That's okay. That's okay. Some of them are just trolling, but it's fine. It's fine. Oh yeah, let's get to this part right here because the brother actually asked a couple of good questions here. I'll give respect to the host of the podcast. He actually asked a couple of good questions, and he also, admits that he has a limited information when it comes to this whole delineation movement and all of that. So he understands that he might be speaking out of turn in certain areas. So I can respect that where he was coming from. I think he did the best he could. And Umar, he tries to take advantage of people that he knows don't know no better and throw out a bunch of gish gallops, throughout the whole interview that he knows the host can't really respond to. Like that, but he asked a couple of good questions, and I think this is one of them right here.
Black Americans deserve reparations, and if so, who has to pay?
Deserve reparations.
So for what happened in America?
Well, remember, slavery happened to the race. That's where we're going to. You see, that's where the disagreements come in because slavery didn't happen to Black America. Slavery happened to Africans wherever they were taken. What they did to me here is no different than what they did to me in Costa Rica.
But America don't have to pay for that. We say if America says we're giving reparations for what happened to Black people in America, who does that go to?
I disagree. Let me clarify. There is no America until July 4th, 1776.
And so Devon, the first time that I ran into a video of you online, you were breaking down how it's unconstitutional to make it race-based dealing with reparations. You was dealing with the task force over there in New York. You know what I'm saying? Excellent job. So I definitely want you to break this part down right here. But I'm going to let him continue a little bit more because he's going to get into why he disagrees that it should go specifically to us and how it should be race-based. And this is his reasoning why.
But my ancestors got here under British North American slavery, not the Spanish. They were there first, right? But Spanish don't control the United States of America, right? Anglo-Saxons do. America was born of the 13 British colonies, right? That was born July 4th, 1776, Loon. So under whose control and dominion were we from 1619 until 1776? The British. Am I wrong? Who Jamaica want reparations from? The British. Do you see where I'm going with this? Who Ghana want reparations from? The British. Who Nigeria want reparations from? The British. So for the American African, to your point, Loon, from 1776 until the present, that's the USA. But from 1619 to 1776, that's the British Empire.
See? And it's the same land. You see? And that's why I think the conversation has to be had because
I think the point.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, the host think he said something deep right there. So us American Africans, we got beef with the British just like the Jamaicans and Ghanaians and everybody else. So what say you, Devon?
Man, I'm so glad that you clipped this part up and came to me first on this because this, just like you just said, this is the same exact fight that we're having in New York. Because it's the same exact fight that you're going to have whenever dealing with pan-Africanism. Because this is one of their most disingenuous tactics when they're talking about enslavement and reparations here in the United States of America. There's a reason why in the New York legislation, it talks about the history prior to New York becoming a state. Because at that point in time, they have to go all the way back to when the individuals that were here were actually enslaved Africans. So those that are both from the continent, we have never said, and I'll speak, let me not say we, I do that sometimes. Let me speak for myself. and the organization, because this is our official position. We have never said that those initial enslaved brought from the continent over to the United States of America, over to North America, were not Africans, right? We've never said that, right? We understand that our entire foundational Black American genetic profile includes some ancestry from the continent of Africa, some ancestry from the continent of Europe, some ancestry from the continent of North America. That doesn't make us African, that don't make us European, and that don't make us Indigenous or Native American. That makes us foundational Black Americans, because we are the mixture of it all. That's why we could never be African, European, or just indigenous here, because our genetic profile isn't found anywhere else on the planet but the country that we built and that we're native and indigenous to, because we created it. And our ethnic group was created here, not anywhere else, here. That's easy to understand if you're dealing in good faith and being objective, right? So now let's get back to this this disingenuous tactic that Dr. Umar and the rest of the Pan-Africans play. He would have a point if those enslaved Africans that were brought over to North American continent when it was under British rule, and right before 1776, they got emancipated and they were looking for who to get reparations from, then you go to the British, right? If it was from whenever they got here to right before 1776 when it was under British rule, you would go to the British. Here's the beautiful thing about foundational Black Americans and the most unfortunate part of our justice claim, that it has not been paid at any point when they could have paid it, or addressed at any point when they could have addressed it. Why this is so powerful for us is because, guess what? From the first time, like Brother Tad just said, from the first time there was enslaved Africans brought over here, there was folks already here. And so we are a continuation. See, history is linear, right? Like it follows, it's continuous. So those same people that he was talking about were subject to the rule under the British are the same people that was in the country right before 1776, the same people that was there after 1776, the same people that was day one citizens, and those same people that are here today looking at the fruits of our ancestors' labor that built this country, who then we went through Jim Crow and redlining and the black codes and mass incarceration. We're that same people group. That's how we can say that we are the descendants of the formerly enslaved. Not the formerly enslaved that was subject to British, or the formerly enslaved that was subject to the American government. No, we're just the descendants of the formerly enslaved, because that was all about, those are the same people group. And so where he falls short, and why they continually try to say enslaved Africans, because they needed to be Africans so they can include present day Africans, which is why the terminology we use when we're talking about this thing from a standpoint of political, the political arena, we use descendants of persons enslaved. The reason why we say that is not to sound, any more intelligent than anybody else, but when you label them Africans, you open the door to Pan-Africanism, but also it's a misnomer. Because what we also know is that there were some indigenous thrown onto those plantations right alongside us. So what do you call that person? 100%. And because we mixed in and became an amalgamation, what do you call that new person if we all were just enslaved Africans? It doesn't tell the entire story. And Pan-Africans only tell the story that benefits them. And so this ahistorical account of history is purposeful, because it's the only way for their ideology to exist and piggyback on the history of our claim, of the foundational Black American claim. And so that, because we're the same people group, he starts to lose steam when he tells the truth. Because guess what? And I said this in a video that I did debunking that Dafa thing on TikTok. Documented by 1680, we were already majority American-born Negroes by 1680. So that's the people that was here before, and those enslaved Africans that had children and moved their generations forward. We were not Africans. We weren't born on the continent. We were born right here. And our ethnogenesis was starting to develop and create the ethnic group you see today. And so again, by the time we get to 1850, another benchmark, the overwhelming majority of our enslaved ancestors were second, third, fourth, and fifth generational foundational Black Americans already. There were no enslaved Africans.
1850.
There were no enslaved Africans, by and large, in 1850. But when you juxtapose that with the Caribbean and with Brazil in 1850, they still had enslaved Africans being imported directly from the continent. That's where you can talk about enslaved Africans as late as 1850. If you want to make a claim based on enslaved Africans, go there and fight that claim. And that's all we're saying. There's a claim to be had by all the victims of the transatlantic slave trade. Though they are similar, they are not the same. Let us address our claim, and you address whatever claim you want that you are able to frame in the idea of being African. Leave our foundational Black American claim alone.
A lot of people say that the devil is in the details, but we like to say that God is in the nuances.
I like that.
You understand? So, brother Chad, I know you ready to cook on that right there.
I'm just letting what brother reverberate.
That was heavy.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but I mean, because one thing I would add to
listening and trying to know everything. Come here, because it's a different charge, but thank you.
Brother Divine had touched on so much because again, this victimhood mentality, because all Black people that were here during that period, those periods and times, not all Black people in America were enslaved. And I wish they would stop, reducing us to that lot of being subservient, oppressed people. We rebuke those identities. When you adopt that identity, you become that. In fact, if you read the autobiography of Frederick Douglass, or even if you read the Confessions of Nat Turner and not the William Styron one. William Styron is fictional. The other one is by Thomas something. I can't think of it off my head because now I'm catching a brain fart. But there's two Confessions of Nat Turner, right? And then you also have, again, Harriet Tubman, Moses of a People. They asked all of these people who were, by all intents and purposes and definition, were enslaved in those times, getting whipped, wearing chains. When did you know you were a slave? Said, I never felt like a slave. We're talking about three freedom fighters. You know why? Because they didn't accept that position that people tried to force on them. And that's what we're saying about us as FBA. We're not accepting identities you're trying to force on us. So when they come with that narrative that all Black people here were enslaved, it's just not true. Slavery is an institution. Institution produces products. So that peculiar institution called slavery are supposed to produce slaves. Just like that institution of higher learning are supposed to produce scholars. Now, do everybody go to school? Are they scholars? Nope. And everybody who was enslaved were not slaves. And we have to rebuke that and reject that. And Dr. Umar, I don't know, he probably got the same degree as Dr. Seuss, because I've never seen a child psychologist or a school principal with no job and no children to tend to. So I don't even know why we accept that. He, as much as a doctor, is Dr. Pepper. And I don't care about his degrees. You can buy those in Atlanta. $1,500, $2,000. You can buy a degree. And I'm saying that we really have to be mindful and take charge of our own being in existence. I rock with FBA. I was stone cold Pan-African. Like I said, I've been to Africa a few times. Have a youth group where we teach our children Black history and African history. I haven't seen Umar with any children. He's not even good with his own children. But this is who they choose to follow.
Yeah.
This is who. Yeah, look, we're gonna speak truth to power tonight. So here's a man who don't have access to his own children, but he want access to ours. If he don't get all the way out my face with his foolishness.
God damn.
But then I remember in 2019 when I was telling people I'm off of Dr. Umar. He playing. He ain't serious about it. Why? Because you got people like a Marcus Klein, you know what I'm saying, with his Freedom Home Academy that are really educating children. He got children 8, 9, 10, 12 years old studying pre-med. I'm talking about, if y'all could look him up, Freedom Home Academy, look him up, Marcus Klein. He's doing phenomenal things. Everything Dr. Umar wish he could do. We got people out here that are really doing the work. But again, in this movement, people like the sensationalism. They like the rhetoric. See, I was the Northeast Regional Director of the Straight Black Pride Movement. Shout out to my brother, Irritated Genie, and all of them who doing the work over there. I think he's in Africa right now. I was part of Dr. Ray Hagan's African Village, New York City chapter. So I done went through the ranks. I was in leadership in these organizations. But just like in the streets, there's a glass ceiling. And if you're afraid to break through that glass ceiling, you're going to be stuck in that paradigm, because there's so much more to know than what we think we know right now. I say the same thing in the streets. When you done moved all the bricks, when you done clapped everybody on the block, what's left? All right, you the illest dude in Nebraska. You went to jail, you ran the phones, you ran the TV, then what? What do you get from that? We talking about self-development, self-actualization, being the best person you can be. But if you don't identify who you are and who you're going to be, and stop accepting other people's identities of who they think you are, you're always going to be under the thumb of those people. You're going to trade in white oppression for African-centered oppression if you don't claim your own identity. And that's what's going on with these people. I've seen it in the Pan-African movement. Somebody could say something 100% foul, but because that's Dr. So-and-so, that's Dr. Obuba Bakari, Walla Netta, everybody take whatever he say. Yeah, because Dr. such and such said, as if God didn't give everybody their own mind to think for themselves, to have a level of discernment. And when Dr. Umar spits that rhetoric, like he's saying right now, like we got to go to the British. Yo, we fought the British. Black people in America fought the British. Enslaved people and free black people fought the British. But we didn't build Great Britain. And I mean, if you want to go back further, you know, the first Brits were actually black folks. But we talking about what's going on in America. We talking about our existence prior to the establishment of this superpower we call the United States of America. We're talking about a black man named Benjamin Banneker who designed Washington, D.C. itself. Like, let's stop playing with it. We got as much claim to this land as anybody else, if not more, because many of our ancestors were already here. It's a land grab. They trying to get us to run to Africa while the Africans trying to run over here, trying to do the bait and switch on us like Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny. Get out my face, and I'm off my soapbox.
Man, listen. real quick. Hold on. Let me get this brother together. All right. Real quick. We're going to take a little bit of an intermission from the Umar video, because shout out to my sister Brooke. She just reminded me that our brother Divine already has a video on TikTok packed with receipts breaking down some of this nonsense right here. So let's go to that video. Hold on. And at least with this video, we ain't got to worry about no commercials popping up. How about that? So this is our brother Divine's video from TikTok right here. So let's play this real quick. And then we'll continue. My bad.
So my movement to counteract the negativity of these movements we're discussing is going to be the Dafa movement. DAFA, Descendants of African Freedmen in America.
Y'all can hear it, right?
Yo, I can't stop laughing at him.
That shit is hilarious. I ain't gonna lie. That shit is funny. When he says that shit, the Dafa, yo, I be cracking up every time. Every time, like, yo.
Yo,
he need to go back to doing skits with Drewski. I mean, that was a good lane for him.
Oh man.
America. Remember, Loom, after freedom came, we were known as what? Freedmen. That was a legal classification. We were the freedmen. My 3 times great-grandfather George fought in the Civil War. My 4 times great-grandfather Steve fought in the Civil War. My cousins Lewis and Charles, the sons of Frederick Douglass, fought in the Civil War. I'm a descendant of freedmen who fought to keep this country from being divided. And we have rights as freedmen, so we're fighting as descendants of African, not no American. You ain't never putting that in no title, no organization of mine. Descendants of African freedmen in America.
Okay, let's slow the good doctor down before he gets way too far ahead of himself. There is no such thing as African freedmen. In fact, the enslaved here in the U.S. were American-born Negroes as early as 1680, and by 1860, only 1% were being imported. So what does that mean for the enslaved here? By 1850, the overwhelming majority of our enslaved ancestors were third, fourth, and fifth generational Black Americans already. In 1910, 99% of the Black American population were native born. And so we were always American freedmen. In fact, you will see here that the first iteration of that comes in the American Freedmen's Inquiry Commission of 1863. Now, I was thinking about all the people I could get to debunk Dr. Johnson's claims, but instead of going all the way around the world, I thought who better than the American freedman he claims to be a descendant of, to let him know that the native land of the American Negro is America. So that Dafa, you could throw that in the trash. It is DOA. In fact, if you want to find out some good American freedmen work being done, reach out to the U.S. Freedmen Project, because we were freedmen then, we're freedmen still, and there's nothing like a freedman's will.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. We could have ended it with that.
Or got him.
We could have ended it with that. I mean, that Frederick Douglass receipt, that's the nail in the coffin right there. To not just to this video, but to Dr. Umar, just period. That's the nail in the coffin of whoever's still listening to Dr. Umar after that. You need to check your temperature or something. You know what I'm saying? You've been running around here for 15, 20 years talking about you a descendant of Frederick Douglass, and you trying to convince everybody that we ain't African, and to identify with America, we're identifying with our oppressor, and that's the white man's identity, and blah, 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 blah. And you naming your school after Frederick Douglass, your non-existent school, your imaginary
Bando.
After Frederick Douglass, when you got these kind of receipts laying around, where that man was delineating way before us.
Sincere, delineating and bunny hopping. Let's put it in.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Everything he said he don't represent, he's representing.
Right.
The contradictions.
Right, and one of the most ridiculous things about that clip that I found that it hit me after I did that video is that he's telling the guy Loon, he like, yeah, ain't gonna be no American in any organization I do. So we descendants of African freedmen in America. Like what the bro? What? And on top of that, here's what's so like. I mean, you just got to be a flat out coward if you're gonna sit there and quote all the ancestors that fought to keep this country together, but then tell other foundational Black Americans that we don't have a right or claim to the country. Like how much of a coward are you to spit in the face of your ancestors that you quoted that said they fought for this country, not for Africa, not for anywhere else, for this country, but then you tell yourself and others, but I don't have a claim here, and I shouldn't be saying that I'm American. Well, you should be more American than anybody could ever come to you and say that they are, since you got ancestors that spilled blood for this country. It's just cowardice, like I said, and just that doctrine of the religion of pan-Africanism, it spits in the face of all logic and facts because it's based on faith and a belief system, and they are totally bought in to that religion.
I just want to say, in the wise words of the prolific FBA musician Rick James, cocaine is a hell of a drug.
Cocaine
is a hell of a drug. He's on something. He's on something. I just had to put that out there. Something wrong with Umar, man. He got to get high. He got to. No American in the name, but Dafa.
Right. Like in the same sentence, you saying this in the same sentence, and then all throughout the interview, he's referring to us as the American Africans. He just changed African American around. We the American Africans. Just anything but who we said we are.
Right. Kuji Chagalia, self-determination. That's in this Kwanzaa book. You know, that's one of the principles of Kwanzaa. Kuji Chagalia, self-determination. I define myself. I won't let nobody else define me.
It's one of the most powerful things you could do.
Yeah.
It's one of the most powerful things that you could do. Name yourself. That's one of the main things that the colonizer did when they went around colonizing everybody was rename everything. Because that's an act of power.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And while we on that topic about who's the real foundation of the of this nation and all of that, I saw this video recently. Let me share this tab instead. There was you know, who is this guy again? I forgot who he is. He down there in Florida, some politician down there in Florida. He was recently on Tucker Carlson's show, and he mentioned foundational Black Americans by name, and he was throwing shade at the Trinidadian dude down there that's against reparations because his family can't get it. Yeah, any of y'all remember his name?
I call him a pimp named Fishback.
Right.
His
name Fishback.
Yeah.
Right?
His last name is Fishback.
Fishback. Fishback.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if y'all saw this one right here, but I don't know who these guys are he's sitting down talking to right here.
Yes. I just saw this today,
but
matter of fact.
People understand what it is. People trying to play dumb. People try to play dumb about the lineage and the identity, but they understand what it is. And so these white supremacists are trying to get him to get on code with them. That's what's happening in this video, because he's off code as a white Latino or whatever he is. He's off code by recognizing the lineage in the way that he has been doing for whatever reason. You know what I'm saying? Doesn't mean that he's a friend of ours or anything like that. He might be doing it for his own reasons, but the truth is the truth no matter who tell it. You know what I'm saying? So let me play this video real quick and I'll get y'all brothers' thoughts.
Is the sound playing?
Oh, y'all can't hear it?
Anything.
Y'all can't hear it? Damn, and you know what?
Devon, could you hear it?
That's fucked up. Let me see.
It's not playing.
Let me go back here. I might have messed it up by opening up too many tabs. Hold on. Let me see if this one. Let me know if you can hear this one.
Nope.
Any sound?
Nope.
Any sound? All right. So y'all hold me down for 1 second because I got to refresh on my side to get the sound back.
No doubt. No doubt.
Got you.
Go ahead. Y'all could go ahead and chop it up.
All right, so I'll take this time to talk about something that we're going to also highlight at the end. Currently in New York, we have an email writing campaign to help us get the exact designation, like Brother Taz said, and Brother Sincere, and Sister Brooke talks about all the time. There's power in self-autonomy, and currently, right now, in every state across the country, it's not just New York; it's in the entire United States of America. We do not have an ethnic group that is federally recognized by the federal government or any state government in any state currently. That's why we cannot, one of the main reasons why we can't get any legislation written that directly targets us and satisfies or addresses our unique plight in this country. So currently here in New York, we're looking to fight against that. We have some legislation moving through the New York State legislative body that's going to disaggregate the Black/African-American demographic and give foundational Black Americans our distinct group with which to aggregate data. And more importantly, where we can start to finally address and have specific policies just for our ethnic group and our families. And so if you go to bit.ly/BREUCK call to action, that is where you can find the email page. Again, that is a bit.ly link is bit.ly/BREUCK call to action that has all the links there. The emails are pre-written. It takes about 10 to 15 seconds for each one. So you could do it all in under a minute. And that is putting pressure, letting these New York State officials know that there is a growing coalition building, asking and demanding that we get specific policies for our families and specific data sets. And why it's so important to do that here in New York and why now is the perfect time to strike is because in 2021, they did it for the AAPI community, the Asian American Pacific Islander community. And last year they did, well, in 2024, because we're in 2026 now. So in 2024, they had the legislation for the MENA group, which is the Middle East and North Africans. And so this New York State legislative body already knows what disaggregation is. They've already done it. And now it's our turn. Yes, we should have been first, but now there's no excuse for them not to push it through. And we will be able to hold them accountable with that precedent for all those that don't sign on to it and don't push it through this legislative session. And that's really what politics needs to look like for our demographic, demanding policies and enacting political consequences when those demands are not met. No more free votes for either party, or just voting blue no matter who, or voting red until we dead. Like, we have to demand policies from all public officials and then enact political consequences where we can, so that they understand that we are a politically nimble group that believes in quid pro quo.
Absolutely.
You give me something, I give you my vote. There's no more empty symbolism. There's no more but your ancestors was killed, because both parties engaged in that killing for votes. And so we're not going to reward one over the other. Give us direct policy, or we'll sit it out. And that is a form of civic engagement. Don't let nobody tell you that you saying, hey, I was willing to come out to vote, but now I'm not going to vote for neither one of you because you don't offer me nothing. That is also civic engagement. Don't let nobody tell you that you got to go vote for somebody else. No. One of the most powerful things you can do is withhold your vote and or withhold your dollar. So don't let nobody tell you that that's not civic engagement.
Absolutely.
Shout
out,
as you
real
say
quick,
that,
shout out to Brother Cali. What's your name? Real quick. Shout out to Big Cali 173 with the super chat. Go ahead, Tad.
Oh no, I was just saying to piggyback off what Brother Devon just put down. That was the whole purpose of Black Solidarity Day. Just a day of abstaining to show you how we can shut this system down in one day without our participation. But it seems like our folks have lost sight of that, and many people forgot when Black Solidarity Day is, and it's always the Monday before Election Day, which I think it should actually be, a little bit further out, maybe a month before Election Day, just to show, like, if we don't get demands met, and of course that's with civic engagement as well, supporting policies that work in our benefit and making demands. I work with the migrants. New York is a sanctuary city, and we've seen how much money went to migrants and how much set asides they got for people who don't got a nickel in this quarter. And they stayed on Billionaires Row in Manhattan. They stayed in the best hotels, received public assistance grants and all kind of stuff. And here with us, they still want to talk about having studies to see what we're owed and what we deserve. And we got to get better on our game, and FBA is really taking the lead with that. And I'm always offended with folks that have a problem with FBA, because a lot of times people have asked me, my Pan-African brothers and sisters, is like, yo, why everybody leaving? Why everybody anti-Pan-African all of a sudden? I said, because when we decided to recognize our lineage and bloodline, everybody has a problem with that. And if you got a problem with me representing me, then we got a problem. We don't have a problem until you create one. So what people really see is the pushback and the response to people we really embraced as brothers and sisters. Because prior to, I say, the past 20, 30 years, we didn't have to delineate, because we accepted all Black people. Came into our neighborhoods, we embraced you, whether you was Caribbean, continental African, Haitian, whatever. We embraced you. But we see as your numbers swell and more people started hopping the gate coming across the border, y'all starting to get more emboldened and be disrespectful, as if we didn't look out for y'all and hold y'all down and embrace you as one of us. So it ain't F me, it's F you now, if that's your position.
Yes, indeed.
Are descendants of slaves really American, though?
Yeah.
What
you can hear it now, right?
Yes, clearly.
All right, cool.
What makes them American? Because they've been here.
They've been here and they've fought in every single war since our country's founding. So yeah, I think people who shed blood, who fought for the soil of our land, regardless of the color of their skin, are more American than people who got here 2 years ago.
Most of that blood has been white blood.
Sure, that doesn't change the fact that the individual who lost their life or who sacrificed doesn't change that fact. I mean, proportionally, black men are only 13% of the population. So yeah, I mean, most of it is going to be white blood, absolutely. But there are brave black men in my state, in our state, who have gone to war, not just in the global war on terror, but in Korea, in Vietnam, World War I, World War II, the Civil War. Their contributions matter just as much.
It's true, but predominantly that experience has been one reserved for people of European descent. And I think it's important for us to make that observation and not just count that out.
Well,
AKA, that's true, but we're not supposed to say that out loud. We're not supposed to recognize their contributions. We're only supposed to recognize the so-called contributions of white men.
You can make the observation. It doesn't make it, I mean, it's an observation. It's empirically true, you know. But look, if you're someone from Sweden or from South Africa, and you're white and you come here and you've been here for 2 years and you are on an H-1B visa, you are not more American than a black American or a white American who's been here for 5 or 6 generations.
Well, there it is.
Can I say something to that video?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 things jumped out to me. And one being that this, if you can, it's something that I've said before. I've said on the bridge with the family, and not to make a long story even longer, but a lot of times we give a pass to Pan-Africans, whether they're black Pan-Africans or Afro-immigrant Pan-Africans, because of melanin, because of how we've been socialized. But if you close your eyes, without going to the movie reference, and you just imagine or envision the person that's talking to you when they're a Pan-African, and you imagine them as white, they sound exactly like that man on the left.
Oh my God.
And the reason why that is because this idea of Pan-Africanism or patriating, because they call it repatriating because that's where we came from, but we'll call it patriating because most of us are going for the first time ever because we were born here. So patriating to the continent has always been the plan of the white supremacists and also the quote-unquote good white folks who are made in the same image of that Sweden or South African person that just got here that thinks they're more American than the black Americans that have been here for generations, right? And so during that time of the American colonization society, that was the white supremacist plan, but it was also the plan of the good, quote unquote, white abolitionists of the day, because they also believed that they weren't going to be powerful enough to sway the white supremacists from feeling the way that they felt. So they were like, well, you know what? If these formerly enslaved are going to have a good life, it's going to have to be somewhere else outside the country that they built. And most of those abolitionists were recent arrivals from other places, right? So there was a mixed bag of intentions on why they were feeling that way. But the bottom line is this idea of taking black Americans off the land that we built and been for generations and sending us to Africa, somewhere, anywhere. That is what has always had the Pan-Africans, both domestic and foreign, and white supremacists, both domestic and foreign, on the same page when it comes to foundational black Americans and our claim to the land that we built. That's why Marcus Garvey had kinship with Ernest Cox and those other white supremacists, and they supported his work. That's why a Shirley Chisholm goes to the bedside of George Wallace when he was in the hospital, because they never lived here as foundational black Americans. They lived here as the interpretation of what it meant to be black as Afro-Caribbeans from Jamaica.
But let me say this, Brother Devon. I'm gonna be Umar advocate real quick. Let me say this, Brother Devon. See, this is why the Dafa movement is necessary. This is why we got to get the Dafa movement, brother. Because when you say patriate and you reject repatriate, what you're doing, brother, is you're cutting yourself off at the root. You're a tree without a root, and blase, blase, blah. You're saying that your history begins with slavery. Your history begins with colonization. And so this is why the FBA nonsense has to go, and we got to usher in this Dafa movement.
And to that, I say this, Brother Umar. This argument is rooted in how you choose to frame it. You frame our roots beginning in slavery, and I frame our roots beginning in the resistance to enslavement. Because that is what our culture of being foundational Black American is rooted in. See, those same roots that you want us to take root in are rooted in the same evilness that it took a white supremacist to buy the enslaved, because those Africans were those that were selling the enslaved. And so if we're going to truly honor the Orishas and everything else on the continent that you acknowledge, then let me acknowledge the ceremony where they marched my ancestors around the tree of forgetfulness. Let me honor the tradition of them having my ancestors drink from the well of intentuation, to where we were going to be more docile on the trip over and forget from whence we came, so that we could be damned in this life and the next. Even the white supremacists introduced us to a religion that said, hey, you might have hell on earth, but in the next life you can reach heaven. When we talking about those Africans that were involved and partnered up in the slave trade, they wanted to make sure that we had hell on earth and in the next life. And we couldn't find them to pay them back. But in the spirit of man on fire,
we here, baby. Prodigal sons.
That's right. We done got up out the pig pen, and Killmonger was right.
Killmonger was absolutely right, 100%. You want to say anything, Chad?
Nah, I'm enjoying the conversation. I mean, I'll just, Brother Divine always lays so much down. There's so much I want to say about it, like the colonization society, and we got to remember, and it goes back to what he was saying about the abolitionists as well. And I don't know if people know, but Lincoln did write a letter to the British Crown talking about, we need to send these people to one of them colonies in Africa, because he said, as long as they here, we're always going to have problems with them. So people keep acting like Lincoln was a friend of ours, or even these abolitionists like Brother Divine laid out. And again, in reclaiming your own identity, I'm going to say this real quick to his point about the Africanization of FBA. I trace my paternal bloodline. So I'm talking about my father's father, all the way back to the early 1800s, maybe late 1700s. Out of that bloodline, out of those centuries, I'm the only one who actually been to Africa. I'm the only one who. So when they be like, you're African, I'm like, how? None of these men from my bloodline. None of them. And again, that thumbs a nose up in the face of missing Black fathers too. Of fathers missing out the family, missing out the household, because that is an identity that's been forced on us that destroys the Black family as well. When we start talking the single parent stuff, you can't be a parent by yourself. It takes two. Now, whether you want to acknowledge your partner or not, that's on you. But there's no such thing as a single parent. You created that child with somebody else. So I say that because, again, we got to get the language right, as Dr. King said. We got to get the language right. A lot of these identities that we're beholden to is actually what holds us back. A lot of times people will say a deadbeat dad, but it ain't a deadbeat dad. Sometimes he's a dead broke dad. He just ain't got the money. So there's so much. And I'm not advocating for people not taking care of their children. Let's be clear on that one. But what I'm saying is there's so many identities that we adopt. Like now Umar's a deadbeat. I'll call him a deadbeat because he ain't broke. He can travel all around the world.
Use them donations.
Yeah. But I mean, he got it. Hook or crook. However you get your money, take care of your children. I don't care if you're out there selling incense and oils. You know what I'm saying? Take care of your family. But these are the people that they're listening to. What Killmonger said, this is your king. This is your king. The Prince of Panhandling. And people really follow him. But then they want to say Tariq Nasheed is our leader, who he's never said he's our leader. Because you can't be the leader of a lineage. Like, who's the leader of Jamaicans? Who's the leader of Haitians? You know, there is no leader. It just is what it is. The code is the leadership. However, in this philosophy of Pan-Africanism, you got the Prince of Panhandling, the most requested scholar, like he's the descendant King Kong consciousness. He's a descendant of Frederick Douglass, Nat Turner, Fred Hammond, Harriet Tubman.
Fred Hammond.
Everybody. Can I get an amen?
Don't forget Fred Sanford.
Fred Sanford.
Hey, listen, we're not gonna make it through this whole video, but I want to get to this next part because I definitely need you, Brother Tad, to tap in on this because I know you already spoke about both of your great grandmothers and where their lineage comes from here. So let me play this next part of the video. Appreciate y'all rocking with us, family. Appreciate y'all rocking with us. Y'all make sure y'all hit that like button. All right. Let's go into this next part.
Because at least with the ADOS FBAs, they admit their ancestors came from Africa. They just are of the opinion that don't matter no more. I don't know how you get there. Because as the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey said,
a little bit.
Are of the opinion that don't matter no more. I don't know how you get there. I think the point you're leaving out, there's a self-hate aspect to this too. And I know the ADOS FBAs, they're not the pretendians. And I say that respectfully, because at least with the ADOS FBAs, they admit their ancestors came from Africa. They just are of the opinion that don't matter no more. I don't know how you get there, because as the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey said, a people without knowledge of themselves is like a tree without roots. I would love to see an FBA history book for the kids. I would love to see an ADOS FBA history book for children. If they ever build an ADOS FBA school, how are y'all going to treat identity in history? Because y'all cutting yourself off from your root, and you identifying with a man who's trying to get rid of you. That's the weakness of the movement, Loon.
Who is that they're identifying with?
Say that again.
Lord Jesus.
Pretendians. I like when they say that because I got receipts. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Shout out to everybody watching on the playback. If you in New York, you can go to the Schomburg Research and Culture Center in Harlem. They do have computers that will help you find your family genealogy. Now, what I will say, and check this out, sincere brother Devon, check this out. They did start limiting access on certain documents now.
Interesting.
You can get census records now. My great grandmother was registered as Negro. You know, shout out to my great grandfather who was mad years older than her. He might have caught R. Kelly case if this was today's time. He's about 17 years older than my great grandmother. But nonetheless, prior to that, I saw her birth certificate. That's how I remember her birthday, December 25th, 1910, Halifax County, Virginia. She was 14 years old when Dr. Walter Plecker changed her from Native American Cherokee, because that is on her birth certificate, to Negro. Now, this is my mother's grandmother. We all lived in the same apartment building. We had when I was growing up, there were 6 apartments in the building. We had 4 of them. My grandmother said at one point, my family lived in all 6. First phone number I ever remember, 857-6141. That's back when all of New York was 212. You call my great grandmother phone. She tap on the pipe. That means send somebody downstairs. It's the phone, or you look out the window, see what my great grandmother wanted. That was my mother's grandmother, her maternal grandmother. That was my grandmother's mother. My grandmother's still alive. She's 89 years old this year. In fact, she'll be 90 this year. My grandmother will be 90. She's still alive. She lives in South Carolina. My family's from the South. You know, my father's family is from Newberry. His mother's from Newberry, and my grandfather's from Lowmount, which used to be Prosper, South Carolina. When I go visit these graves, it's all Black, because these people has transitioned before the Civil Rights Movement. See, I try to tell people civil rights wasn't just about toilets and lunch counters. We weren't allowed to buy life insurance. We were only allowed to buy burial insurance. We weren't allowed to be buried in the same cemetery as white people. So when I do my family history and I go down there with documents, Dr. Umar, when we go with documents, there's my grandfather, there's his parents, his grandparents, and their parents. This cemetery, all these black people, is my direct bloodline. I don't have to look at a book from Dr. Clark or Dr. Bennett. No disrespect to them and the work they've done, but we are living testaments. We are literally living history. They keep telling us to go to Africa, but all my ancestors are buried here. I've been to cemeteries in Africa. I don't know none of them people. No near person over there. I know in part of my bloodline and my mother's father's bloodline, one of the first Africans came and landed on the Drayton Plantation in Charleston, South Carolina. But that's my mother's father's bloodline because, you know, it takes a few hundred people to make one of us. You get 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, 16 great-great-grandparents, and so on and so forth. So by 5 generations, you're already up 100 and something people, maybe 200 people to make one you. Are you telling me all these people got one singular bloodline and lineage?
Makes no sense.
All these few hundred people, all of them came from Africa? That is not true, especially based on the African-centered scholars that black people was already here. And like I said, what we already know to be true based on our family history and documentation. So anybody who following Umar, I think you should get your head examined too.
Is that Umar in the chat?
Because
that got to be that's a fake Umar page in the chat. I know that ain't Umar.
It ain't the real Umar, because the real Umar is a sucker too. Because I'm gonna shout out my young brother Ashe SJ. When you heard about Umar getting stepped to in Harlem, that was the young brother Ashe that used to do the show with me and sister Keisha. Used to tag Keisha and Ashe. We was doing thorough black talk in the early days, and he asked Umar, "What's up with the school?" And Umar got brave once the people came around to support him, because our people love personality worship. We don't really do the work. We don't really do the introspection and self-reflection. And everybody who knew Ashe, they start calling our young brother an agent. But let's talk about how Umar was really scared and only got brave when everybody came out there and had his back. Now Ashe is from Bed-Stuy. You know, we on our Brooklyn Bulls.
Do or die.
We with it. Right. So Umar could play brave all he want, but we know you a coward. Because cowards don't take care of their children. Cowards don't respect the women in their life. You don't treat your mama right, allegedly. You don't treat the mothers of your children right, allegedly. You don't treat them little ladies you created right, allegedly. So how can we even look at you as a viable leader? Who even let you talk? Why do you think you qualified to talk? And that's a rhetorical question, because I know what it was. He came in the space of YouTube. When the more followers you had on YouTube, we thought that really translated into something. And we believed your lies. A lot of us believed your lies. But now, you know, it's only so long a fake thug could pretend. So with him calling people pretendians and trying to dismiss the bloodline we can prove, because I want to see what was his name? Ifatunde got a lot of whatever his name is. I want to see you follow your lineage to the Africans on the continent. Do that. That's my challenge. Whether you're the real Umar in the chat, the fake Umar in the chat, or somebody send this to you. Because I've met Umar. See, real quick, and I'm going to pass the mic because I don't want to go into the history. But I thought I knew Umar personally, right? Umar came in through my brother, A.A. Rashid.
Shout out to A.A. Rashid.
He put him on.
Peace to the God.
Yeah, we sandbox brothers. A.A. Rashid is my sandbox brother. He can tell you my resume. We not faking over here. He put Umar on to the lecture circuit. I met Umar at my son's graduation because he was the keynote speaker. I told him about my youth group party. Second time I saw him, we got up in Queens. That's when I met my elders who just transitioned. My elder, Mama Nzinga, she transitioned a few years ago. We buried her ashes on the continent in Ghana. And then my other elder, Mama Eileen, recently passed over the summer. That's how I met them, taking them to the African Poetry Theater. out in Queens where what's our elder name? Damn, it's on the tip of my tongue. Baba John Watusi Branch. Met him there also. We was planning to take the children to Africa. Met Dr. Umar. We reconnected because he remembered me. We exchanged numbers. We talked. We were supposed to do political education classes. He reneged on that. When he reneged on that, I said, all right, this dude, I don't know if he busy or he not serious, because when you make a commitment, you're supposed to stay committed till it's done. He didn't do that. See him again. All he want to do is just be seen. I said, oh, he's one of them. He's an armchair revolutionary. But since we in the digital space, people really think it's work because you talking a lot. But he don't have no children. I got the picture in my phone. I wish I could just show y'all the pictures of everything I'm talking about. Everything. I'm not capping about none of this stuff. Anybody in the Pan-African movement know who I am. They know I was in the movement, traveled this country, back and forth to Africa. I got more pictures doing work with children than Dr. Umar, and I don't profess to be no doctor of nothing. I'm just a concerned person who want to see our young people do better than many of us had in our life, especially when you come from the streets. We want to give our children a fighting chance to live and survive. But here this guy is, and shout out to Sucker Polite, because they let him in the movement too, and he was touching on children. And I'm like, as Black folks, if our children ain't sacred and we not protecting our children, what are we really talking about? We could blame the white man all we want, but we got some wolves in the hen house too. And Umar's one of them. Sucker Polite is one of them. What's that dude that was letting the children touch on him? Nature Boy. All these weirdos that this movement followed and supported. And that's what made me fall back, because I'm like, these people are not serious. Because where I'm from, you getting hands, feet, and blades put to you. But with this thing, everybody could talk it out. No, brother, no, brother. Like, oh, everybody talking about warriors. Here the warriors are. And when it's time to give people some justice, y'all want to explain it away. I'm done with the intellectual plan with these people. Umar need hands and feet put on them from stealing and robbing from the community. Because ain't nobody scared of Umar at all. Father had to call him out. I'm like, this false leadership. And with FBA, there is no leader. The code is the leader. Grandma is the leader. Pop is the leader. Our lineage is the leader. And that's what they don't like, because you can't, there's no focal point that you can attack. So if you can't take the head, how's the body gonna die? Because there is no head. It's a spirit. It's a spirit that they can never crush. And the Pan-Africans, and I'm gonna pass the mic because I'm getting heated, right? They try to adopt that spirit. So Umar will spread a lie that there's no movement stronger than the Pan-African movement. The FBA hasn't done, but everything FBA did, everybody tried to put the African blanket on it. We're not going for it no more. All of these inventions, all of these great people, whether we talking music like Michael Jackson and James Brown, we talking sports like Michael Jordan and Mike Tyson, we talking inventions, like we've done it all.
Lewis Latimer, Grandpa P. Woods.
Yeah, we did it all over here. What light bulb they created over on the continent? And not to minimize what was done there, but that's a long time ago. I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna pass the mic. Stevie Wonder got a dope song called Pastime Paradise. Can live most of your life living in a pastime paradise. A lot of our folks are living in yesteryear, but our freedom fighters of the past were always fighting for a better future. As FBA, that's what we're here, fighting for a better future. Them Pan-Africans can revisit the past all they want. You go back to Timbuktu, you go back to ancient Kemet, all you want. And that has its place, but it don't have a place in the future. It's the pastime paradise. We off that. We not even there no more. We don't even control the land or the resources. So it's time for plan B. And I'm off my soapbox.
Yeah, and a lot of y'all know the Coolio version, the Gangster's Paradise, but go back to the original, Pastime Paradise.
That's right.
And I just
thank you, bro.
And I just want to say, by the way, since Umar asked the question, if y'all want to get some books for y'all children so they can learn about FBA culture and history, y'all make sure y'all go get the 7 The Super Heru series is available on Amazon. 7 The Super Heru Volume 1, 2, and 3, plus the activity book. Go get all of those for your babies so they can learn a little something, just a little something. It ain't no complete deep dive or nothing like that, but it's a little, you know what I mean? Get your babies familiar with who they actually are and how unique they actually are. You know what I'm saying? 7, the Super Hey Rule is the name of the book. Yeah, and it's based, the main character is based on my son 7. All right, y'all go check that out. But man,
can I piggyback on that real quick?
Yeah, you could definitely piggyback. I'm just gonna end the video portion of this, and we can start winding it down from here. But go ahead, say what you guys say.
Okay, yeah. So I just wanted to say real quick, shout out to you and that book series that you have. But I also want to point out, because he said he would love to see what a history book and or a curriculum about foundational Black American history would look like. And he needs not look any further than Black History Month. The 100 years of Black History Month. Now, I can't say the full 100 because at some point they got in there and co-opted it and tried to include those from the diaspora. But when we talking about the original intent of Foundational Black American History Month, that's what it looks like. Highlighting everything we did here. Highlighting all those that were born and cultivated here. That's what it looks like. And like with everything else, you know, we all New Yorkers. So I got two versions. Those for us from New York and those that aren't New York. Pan-Africanism is nothing but the Canal Street version of Foundational Black American culture. And for those that are not in New York, Pan-Africanism is nothing but the Timu version of Foundational Black American culture. It's the knockoff. You ever know what the original looks like? Then you buy the knockoff and try to have the knockoff do everything that the original did, but it don't even work. AKA the real McCoy.
I was about to say the real
Foundational Black American that you had to mention by name, and that's his name. Because if you didn't say that, you was gonna get the knockoff version of that from just from the white folks this time. See, that's what all these other cultures do. They leech and tether on to foundational Black American culture, our innovation, our very being. And then they get mad when the Coke Zero version don't live up to the original Coca-Cola. And so that's why you get a Pan-Africanist viewpoint and a culture of Pan-Africanism. I call them Pan-African Americans, when they're trying to be like foundational Black Americans, and they create these cultural vacuums that's supposed to be foundational Black American, but they're not. And that's why within their vacuums and their ecosystems, you have people touching on kids. See, I'm from foundational Black American culture where we don't play none of that shit. Like Brother Taz said, hands, feet, blades. Listen, that might be the last thing you ever touch, because we are the only group that don't play that shit. We don't play about our kids, and we don't play about other people's kids. That's where we come from. That's what we were raised on. And so the reason why stuff like this happens in their ecosystem is because we are not the same. And they've been trying to convince us that we were the same ever since. And we're just not. And so to this idea that they have more love for their roots than we do, like I said, it's all a theory. And I land this, because I know you're trying to wind down. Let me talk to y'all about something that happened in Dr. Jermaine Johnson from his movie debut in his community. Because Dr. Jermaine Johnson is from Philly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you something that happened in Philly in 1817 at an African Methodist church named Bethel. See, the leaders of the day, when you talk about this idea of identifying as African, that's something that's never happened. And shout out to Tariq Nasheed that highlighted this story when I first heard it. And I did some extra research and found out exactly what he was talking about. In 1817, the elevated leaders of the day, and these were mostly pastors and the people that they were hobnobbing with at the time. See, it's never something that came from the bottom up.
The bourgeoisie.
The bourgeoisie was always from the top down. And this pastor, I want to give names so y'all can look it up yourselves. I'm not going to get everything because y'all can do some research on your own. But it was the Mother Bethel Church and AME Church in Philadelphia. And the pastor of that time, his name was Cuffy. Just so we have some names, so you guys can look that up. Reverend Cuffy. And he had went to Sierra Leone, where the British had set up a colony on the continent of Africa for the formerly enslaved. And he got the bright idea to say, yeah, we should do that. And so he got with his other bourgeois friends, the boule, and said, you know what, we should start promoting this idea of going to Africa and putting the formerly enslaved, or those that are under the threat of slavery, put them on the continent. Now, he didn't say we should go to the continent. He said we should get other people and take them to the continent. And long story short, he meets another white pastor, and this white pastor and his network become the infancy for that same American Colonization Society that we talked about. But in the interim, people in Philadelphia, Foundation Black Americans, found out what they were trying to do. And 3,000 Foundational Black Americans in 1817 showed up to the church and stood on business and was like, who taking who where? And shut the whole shit down, that side of the operation. What we do know now is obviously the American Colonization Society, the white version of it, continued to go. But the society that these boule were trying to start, that shit got shut down on that day. Not even day one, day zero. They weren't able to take not one through their organization to the continent. Because even then, in 1817, Foundation Black Americans was like, no, we not African and we ain't going nowhere. And so this has never been a grassroots movement to go to Africa. And it's never been the majority of Foundational Black Americans to go. Never in history, though there were many attempts and many opportunities, the overall majority of us have never gone. It was always a select few, and there was always a white supremacist not too hard to find. What they say, what is it, scratch a liar, find a thief? Scratch a pan-African, find a white supremacist.
And most of you niggas now that say we need to go ain't going your damn self.
And to piggyback on that, so I can make the last point, the Honorable Mosiah Garvey never made it to the continent of Africa. Even when he had a chance after he was deported from the United States of America. He went back to Jamaica, got fed up with Jamaica, and went and retired and died in the UK, like most Afro-immigrants today. So y'all king, like Brother Tal was saying, this is your king? Your king ain't never make it to the promised land when he had the chance to. But that's supposed to be the land of milk and honey, and where we supposed to be setting up shop and denying our roots here in the country that we built and that birthed our ethnic group. Again, I'll say this again. Nowhere on the continent can you find the unique genetic profile of a Black American. Nowhere. That's because those are not our roots. And I'll land there.
I don't even know what to say, y'all. I don't even know what to say, man. This was another hot one. Y'all gonna have to study this one. I don't know if y'all had y'all notepads or what, you know what I mean? But y'all watching this on the replay, make sure y'all pull out those notepads, man. Make sure y'all do y'all Googles and y'all researches and y'all chat GPTs and all of that. You know what I'm saying? So that you are armed and equipped with the information to be able to shut down a lot of these bad faith arguments. You know what I'm saying? So you don't be like the brother from It's Up There podcast who couldn't really, counteract, even though instinctively he kind of knew that something was off, but he just, you know what I'm saying? He not equipped with this type of information to be able to hold it down like that. So that's why platforms like this are very important. So I want to thank y'all brothers for coming on tonight. Wonderful job. I'm glad all I had to do was ad lib and be like Flavor Flav up here. You know what I'm saying? Y'all spitting them hot 16s. All I had to do was take that. You know what I'm saying? Y'all made my job real easy. But yeah, I appreciate that, man. For real.
Now we appreciate you, bro, for giving us a platform and a voice to express, you know, just what our position is. And again, it's all about community. I'm community centered, you know what I mean? I really want to see our folks win, you know, and I know we could win. We got a legacy of winning. This is just another challenge. This is another battle, you know. Like I always say, we actually making history right now. So when our children and grandchildren look back, they can say, yeah, my dad, he did this, that, and the third. My uncle did this, that, and the third. They was part of the movement. You know, we here to make our mark.
Yes, indeed. Shout out to Frank White with the $2 super chat. Definitely appreciate that. I'm gonna give y'all brothers the last word and make sure that you let everybody know where they can follow you at. Let them know what you got going on, what you got coming up, anything that you want to plug, promote, anything like that.
I'll go first. Again, family. My name is Brother Tad. You can follow me on TikTok as Coach Tad Cromwell. And you can also start looking at Tad Talks. That's a new platform I'm about to launch, but you can definitely catch me every Thursday night at 8 p.m. on YouTube on the Brooklyn Bridge. Thorough Black Talk Worldview. That's every Thursday at 8 o'clock, Thorough Black Talk Worldview. Every Sunday at 2 o'clock, the OG Wisdom Podcast. You can follow that platform too, the OG Wisdom Podcast. And again, follow me on TikTok, Coach Tad Cromwell, Waverly Ave Tad on Instagram. But again, Tad Talks is where it's going.
With the X.
Tad Talks
with the X.
That's right, TALX. Real talk, real growth. That's all we about. We got to change this mindset and this paradigm. Change the way we think, we change our reality. You know what I mean? So I thank everybody for rocking out with us. Shout out to my sister Brooke, my sister K Fighter, my sister Aruba 927, my sister Farness, and everybody else who hold us down. Brother Divine.
Man, thank you for that. I just wanted to say, because there's another couple lies that he mentioned in that video I want to make sure I touch on one of them at least, because this is kind of one of the things that have been bouncing around, especially Pan-African communities for a really long time when it comes to Africa and some of its original ideologies and things that were either a byproduct of colonialism or European culture, or what was already happening on the continent of Africa. So the first
like
one,
dashikis?
Right, exactly, like dashikis, a bunch of stuff just like that. One of them being, because we talked about a little bit with Sucker Polite and everything that was going on in the community, especially when we talk about children, right? Now this one can be up in the air a little bit, because of colonization and how it was set up. But you have General Butt Naked of Sierra Leone, that real name, not bullshit. And look up General Butt Naked of Sierra Leone, who was exploiting children on the continent of Africa and Sierra Leone.
And his name is General Butt Naked?
General Butt Naked. I kid you not. Y'all can look that up. I'm not bullshitting. Y'all can look that up yourself now.
That sound like white people played a cruel joke. Like they must have adopted him and gave him that name and raised him to be a pedophile and then let him loose on the goddamn population. So that's what that sounds like.
Right. So I'm not gonna put that on Africa. That's what I'm saying. This one I'm not gonna put on Africa, but I want it to be known that this is something that was going on in the continent. So when we talk about just culture, since we know our culture don't play about kids, understand that this is stuff that was going on, that was in the forefront, out in the front, that people knew about. And where were the Pan-Africans pushing back against that or fighting to stop that or end that, right? In the 70s, where they could have. But the other one I think is more important is Buganda, which then becomes Uganda in the late 1800s. And his name is King Kabaka Mwanga. Y'all can look him up too. Kabaka Mwanga II. And in the late 1800s, around the 1880s, he was an openly gay king in the country of Buganda, which would become the region known as Uganda today. And he had his subjects killed if they didn't want to engage in homosexual acts with him.
I think they talked about him in the Buck Breaking movie, if I'm not mistaken.
Probably. And so I just want to highlight this because there are a bunch of lies when the Pan-Africans talk about African culture and what it is and what it's not and how it's supposed to be honored and praised and worshiped. No, it has its flaws, and there was a bunch of bullshit going on long before white supremacists ever touched down. We already know slavery, brutality, and everything else that was going on was happening before the colonizers got there, before the white enslavers got there. So this idea where they kind of demonize and pathologize our culture, the same one they say we don't have when it comes to something good, but that we do have when it comes to something bad, and they sanitize all African culture like there's just one African culture, and there isn't. There's literally thousands of them. You can have hundreds in one country. And so there was a bunch of bullshit going on the continent since its inception that is still going on there to this day. So if we're going to tell the truth, we got to tell the whole truth in its full context so people can actually make educated decisions. And we know that's something that is not encouraged when we talk about religions. They don't teach you how to think, they tell you what to think. And that is what's been happening with Pan-Africanism for far too long. So again, my name is Divine Prince. I'm the current president of the U.S. Freedmen Project. You can find us at on Twitter at U.S. Freedmen PRJ. I'm also on TikTok as the Black American Proverb. You can find us at usfreemanproject.org. There's a join me button where you can volunteer if you feel so pushed to join us in this fight as we fight for remedial justice, for reparations, for disaggregation and the like. And you can also join us in our email writing campaign. I said it earlier in the commercial break, but I want to make sure I bring it back around. That is, if you go to the link set up by our sister Brooke, who is another warrior in this fight with the U.S. Freedmen Project in New York, alongside Sister Keisha and that beautiful chat from Thorough Black Talk, Sister Nicety Girl that is a part of this platform. We got some riders and some warriors down on this side. I can't talk about what they got in the Pan-African movement. I can just tell you what we have over here as Foundation Black Americans and in the current delineation and reparations movement. That's all I can talk about because that's why I'm at. But our sister Brooke has set up the page. It's bit.ly/BREUCK call to action. Again, that link is bit.ly/BREUCK call to action. There are, I think, 5 different links you can click on to send pre-written emails. You don't have to think or come up with what's to say or the right words. We've done that for you, and all that is doing it is urging different sets of politicians and the governor's office to keep an eye out and to support and co-sponsor and vote yes on the legislation that will give us in the state of New York our own category to check that is constitutionally sound, that will allow us to disaggregate our data, give us back our autonomy as an ethnic group, but most and more importantly, to start this process of advocating and materializing lineage-based policies. Because as it currently stands, without this disaggregation, we cannot form legislation that is constitutionally sound, that addresses the unique plight of our people in this country. That's how important this disaggregation movement is. And I say this often, and I'll say it again. Foundational Black American is the term that delineates, and Freedmen is the term that legislatively disaggregates. One is who we are as a people. The other is the status given to that people based on us fighting our way out of enslavement and forcing this country to recognize our emancipation. Ain't nobody give us a damn thing in this country since day one, and they ain't been giving us nothing now. So we are looking to put that pressure on so we can force them to do what we know that they need to do.
100%, man. And yeah, once again, man, I want to thank y'all, man. And I also want to give y'all, I want to help y'all a little bit because y'all are very important, the work that y'all doing and the voices that y'all have out here. And, you know, with these social media platforms, this is the world that we live in now. This is the space that we're in. Everybody is online. And so I want y'all brothers to be able to do whatever it is possible to make sure that you are growing and reaching as many people as possible. And so one thing that you could start by doing is try to get one name across all of these platforms so that you're easier to find regardless to where people are comfortable navigating. So you don't got to have, oh, follow me at this name over here, follow me at this name over here. Try to get one name across all social media platforms where it's easily recognizable. It's easy to say. Somebody don't have to write it down or type it or anything. Something that you could just, if you walking out the barbershop, hey, yo, follow me at such and such. And everybody in there could just hear that real quick. You know what I'm saying? Let's try to simplify that for y'all. And we could start there. And anything else I could do to help you guys grow, because I have learned a little bit about, you know, how to operate on these platforms and all of that. That is what I do. You know what I'm saying? So anything that I could do to help you guys grow and reach as many people as possible, because I think it's very important. And I just want to say to the family that, yes, delineation and ethno-aggregation is the order of the day. It's the most important thing that's happening in the world. I don't care what they're talking about on the news right now. I don't care what's going on in the Middle East. I don't care nothing about whatever else they telling you is more important. Delineation and ethno-aggregation is the order of the day. I don't care how they try to tell you that by us not wanting to be unified with the so-called diaspora is weakening us. It gives you strength. It gives you strength to circle your wagons around where the power is at. You understand? That's the reason why the small hats have so much power, because ethno-aggregation. That's the reason why you have prosperous areas named Little China and Little Korea and Little Italy, and you have certain unions that are dominated by certain ethnic groups and things of that nature, because they circle their wagons around the things that they have in common amongst their small group, and the things that they were good at, the things that they were powerful behind. You know what I'm saying? And so what we're doing is very important here. So don't let nobody tell you nothing otherwise. But we've been on here a little bit over 2 hours now, man, and it was a good one. We're going to close this one out, family. And you know how I got to end it, like I always do, by reminding y'all that, man, we are not the master teachers. We are only the master students and signal boosters for the voices of the new Black media. So that does it for today's episode of Sincere Love, the Godcast. Peace and Black love.